Everyone, I wanted to do a comparison video today. I'm into photography, if you're a long-term viewer, you know, and there's been changes over the market lately on photo management through mobile and some desktop, some web. It's really changing. It's everyone's using their phones rather than, their expensive DSLR, which is unfortunate because DSLR is still very much it creates way better quality photos in your phone camera, but you just happen to have your phone with you all the time. So even me, I have a nice camera, I end up using my phone way more. So there's a lot of apps out there addressing that switch, and it's interesting. There's a lot of hype around these apps. I'm recording this in about May 2015. If you are an iOS, and I only have experience with iOS, but I'm assuming it's the same thing with Android. A lot of these photo apps, they want your photos. Like, please take all my photos, right? They want to sync your entire photo library with their service by default. They literally want all your photos. And it may be free, you may want to do it, but there's always a price. So I wanted to try to show you some. This video is entirely my own opinion. I have varying levels of expertise and use with these services, but entirely my opinion. I recommend you do your own research, but hopefully this will provoke some thoughts that you can evaluate yourself. So what I did is I looked at Google Photos, because as of this week, this is a brand new iOS web um, Android application that it's much more simple than past Google photography efforts such as Google Plus, Google Drive, and Picasa. It's very similar to other things, but the hype this week, and there's a lot of hype around Google Photos. There's the decades-old Flickr website, iOS applications, etc. There's Apple Photos, and I'm referring to the desktop Mac client application as well as the iOS device, iPad, iPhone apps. I wanted to include Lightroom, and the recent one is 6 with an iOS application. And for those that maybe not be experienced in these apps, I want to put on a few more other applications that you may associate with photos. And I'm not going to dive too much into these, but for clarity, I put on Facebook, Dropbox, OneDrive, Instagram, and Snapchat. So to start it off, I'm going to go left to right here. General comments. Google Photos, it's an interesting app. There's a lot of hype going on right now. And in my opinion, much of that hype is really just because they've matched some of Flickr's recent features. So let me start actually a little bit way. There's this column here. There is here's the features: general comments, platform independence, ease of use, maintenance time, trustworthiness. Entirely my opinion. Can they sell my photos? Price of service, face recognition with adding names, social or community features, service caps, an iOS app, do they have one? Browser-based, desktop client, an auto upload or backup, selective upload, available APIs, and DSLR photo support. So these are what came to the top of my head. They're kind of important to me, what I'm looking at. So I did the general comments on Google. Go to Flickr. Flickr's been around forever. I have used them for a long time. I've been very critical of them, but if I'm posting my photos on the web somewhere, it's usually Flickr because it's stable. The features are okay. It's been frustrating that they haven't innovated. But I'll say in the last 6 months, I have become very impressed with some new features they put out on the web browser version as well as the iOS apps. The iOS apps look great. You should check those out. I'm very impressed. I almost wish they would rebrand and call them something else because people associate Flickr as being old and kind of stodgy and not very fun to work with. But they've really done some work in the last 6 months. So there's this magic timeline thing, magic view, and then just the overall layout is much better. Um, Apple Photos, summarizing here, it's, I think on the iOS devices, iPad, iPhone, the social sharing, the shared photo stream feature is great. Sharing photos quickly with family members that always have their phone in front of them, it's very easy to do. It's very limited in features. Storage is expensive. Um, so very different than the rest here. Lightroom 6, basically a desktop laptop, client-based application. You got to have your own storage. You got to have your own fairly nice computer. You got to manage it all. You have a backup solution. The features are, as far as organizing and editing photos, it's the best in the group here. But I'm concerned about their lack of innovation lately. They put out a release, the recent release, Lightroom 6, just really hyped up, and it only had 4 to 5 real features. Many people won't agree with me, but if you net it out for, I guess, a prosumer user, it really didn't have a whole lot. I mean, face recognition was nice. It's a little, it's still a bit slow for me. So they need to innovate more. They need to do some of the things Flickr is doing within the client app. Facebook, most people know what that is. I'm just gonna lump all these: Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, basically social apps. They're not ideal for long-term library storage or editing. Dropbox and OneDrive are basically storage sites only that they have a photo overlay functionality to view your photos. That's about it. And they're not good for editing or anything like that, just storage. So to highlight, I'm just going to highlight the best in the group here. Platform independence. They're basically all platform independent except for Apple. You're tied to the Apple ecosystem. Ease of use. The highlight here, I'll say that many of these are very easy to use. Google, Flickr, Apple Photos, but there's not a lot of features. So yeah, it's easy to use because it doesn't do much. The learning curve on Lightroom it's high. It's higher than the rest of the group, but it's not hard. It's definitely not hard. You can, if you sit down and you just started using it, you're going to be able to figure it out if you know how to turn your computer on and navigate to a browser. Maintenance time. This is how much time do I spend managing my photos, and I'm making the assumption that I want organized photos. I want them in a directory tree. I want them in a reasonable layout where I can find them quickly. So Google Photos, I'm going to say it's a medium because it's still new, and it looked like you have to create a lot of your own albums, and that's still to be determined. Flickr, I'd say it's also medium because they don't allow for raw photos to be uploaded. You're still having to manage an export of a JPEG to Flickr. You got your original photos to manage as well if you want to do that. I do like the Magic View again. That's starting to make things easier in that you can sort your catalog multiple ways. We always had the timeline, the ascending, descending, but now you can sort by show me all the people, show me all the landscape, show me all the technology objects, that kind of thing. Apple Photos, I'm gonna have to say it's medium if you factor in the desktop application. It's, you know, if you want it organized, you're going to have to invest some time. Lightroom is very high, in my opinion. You're spending a lot of time fixing metadata, tagging. If you want to, these are only optional, right? If you don't, you're the type of person you just dump all your photos in one gigantic directory and be done with it. Fine. You won't invest too much time at all with any of these apps, but I like mine organized. Trustworthiness. So this is how do I, my opinion around, if I'm giving my photos, my data to these companies to hold for me with a limited license, how much do I trust them? and this is again entirely my opinion based on me reading news articles, past situations that occurred in the news. Google, I mean, it's still brand new. You know, they're an advertising company. They have your data. What are they doing with your data? Are they profiling you? You know, if I could upload my pictures and they were encrypted to Google, that would be interesting, right? But they don't seem to be. Flickr, you know, I'll call them a little bit higher level of trust. I mean, they are basically a media ad generated ad revenue company as well. I haven't read too many negative things about improper use of data. I mean, most of these companies probably have had some occurrence, but they're not the huge search engine that Google is. Perception of trust is a bit higher. Apple Photos, pretty high there because they're not a search engine. They're not seemingly selling your data. They're not using your data. They're just storing it. They want you to buy devices. They want you to buy storage. So that's interesting. They have multiple layers of security, two-factor authentication. They have had some of their own security issues. Um, anyway, so Lightroom 6 for the client app. I mean, it's a security. It's up to you, right? It's your own client app. So trust is medium, kind of low for the iOS app in the cloud. They've had some of their own security issues, breaches in the past. You know, trustworthiness also is. I'm getting a little bit disappointed for the lack of innovation. I don't feel that they're going to put a lot into the app going forward. Um, Also with the cloud, they had their cloud model. You can license the app, but they wouldn't give you the iOS app to use. That was kind of not very nice. I didn't think so. Their their product offerings don't give me a high level of confidence here. How they've structured them. You know, just quickly, I put low trust on Facebook here. I mean, they're big. They're using your data. You should do your own research here. Entirely my opinion. Before I did this video, I looked at their terms of service, and they are a bit more clear than they have been in the past. Um, Go and read them yourself, but they have a license to have the photos on their service. They could use your photos to better their service. They don't specifically say that they're not selling your photos, but it seems to be clear what they're doing. But Facebook also has a big API, and a number of third parties can attach to it. How do I know if I can trust those third parties? And you know, how can I ensure that those third party groups will protect my data? There's just a lot of things going on there that you really strongly want to think about what you post up there. Same thing with Instagram and Snapchat. Price of service, I mean, there's always a price. You may not pay any dollars, but there's always a price. Google Photos add search-based use of your data, right? So they're profiling you, you're looking at your data, they're targeting you with ads. Flickr, pretty generous, very generous. 1 terabyte of storage, and let me go back just to be clear. Google Photos it's unlimited storage so long as your photos are less than 16 gigabytes per picture. Flickr, 1 terabyte free with ads or paid at $50 a year. In my opinion, the ads are not really that intrusive, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay for the 50. Apple Photos, it's basically, I think it's about 5 gigabytes free when you buy an Apple device. Other than that, you have to buy extra storage, which is really expensive. Lightroom's a licensed or cloud-based app. If you do the cloud-based app, it's basically $10 a month. Face recognition, I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. It's just a feature that has been newer in these products lately, and I categorize them into two methods. There is a feature that can look at your photos and identify whether it is a person, right? And then there's a feature that says, yes, this is a person. Would you like to tag it? And you can name it and track the name. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just unique. Google Photos can identify that there is people in a photo. Flickr can identify people. Apple Photos can identify people, and you can manually name a person. It's labor intensive to manually name each photo. I don't find that it does groups of the same people very well. Lightroom just introduced this feature in version 6. I think it's a bit more less time consuming than Apple Photos. So, and then Facebook, we all know they can identify people, and you can manually enter a tag. Social or community features. I would say the highlight on this row is that Flickr is a huge community. It's a community within itself. So it's a photo site. You can share photos, but the chatter within the community is high, which is kind of fun. I'd also say that the iOS mobile social shared photo streams is fun. It is very handy with family members. All the rest of them are mainly link sharing, or they're completely all social all the time. Service caps, Google 16 gigabytes per picture. They may downsize some of your pictures. 1 terabyte with Flickr, or 50 a year. Apple Photos 5 gig or paid storage, which, you know, $4 for 200 gigabytes per month is, you know, compare that to Flickr. I'll leave it at that. Lightroom 6, you know, you got to have your own desktop, you got to have your own storage, you got to have your own backup solution, and they give you about 114 gigabytes that I could find of cloud storage, which is very low. It's not a good spot for your full catalog. It's good for uploading some photos, making some edits, and then syncing them back and then deleting them. All these apps have an iOS application. The Lightroom one is basically just used for rating, sorting, not for, and then some basic edits. It's a different style of app than these other ones. They all have a browser-based access. Again, Lightroom is very minor. Editing, rating, starring available. Desktop client app, Google Photos, no. Flickr, no. They may have a small upload client. That's about it. Apple Photos, yes, on the Mac platform. Good app. Glad I have it. Not a lot of features. Lightroom 6 is the highlight here. This is the strong one in the desktop category. How to upload from your mobile device to the cloud. I don't actually use this myself. I can see why you would want to. But all these services basically have it except for Lightroom. You can do a selective upload, which is not automatic. It does auto sync. You can do a selective upload. I'm mixed feelings about these. Put up every photo that I have on my phone to these services. I would rather have a selective method. Yeah, so you can do it with Google Photos, but it's not very easily. You have to upload it to an existing album. Available APIs, often the more APIs, the more extended functionality you have. I couldn't find any for Google Photos. I don't think so yet. Flickr has a lot of them. Apple Photos, not really. You have a lot of apps that are third party that can access and publish to your library. That's about it. Lightroom APIs, yeah, there's some APIs for catalog management. There's all kinds of things. Exports to Flickr. So DSLR photo support. This is important to me because I do like my big camera. Google Photos, cumbersome. It's hard to use. It down converts your files to 16 gigabytes. And when you try to upload from a desktop, it only searches for JPEGs first. You have to switch to the all files function on Windows to even upload it. Very hard to do. Not apparent. Flickr, you can't directly upload RAW files to Flickr. You have to convert first, and then go to JPEG or whatever similar file format and then upload. So I use Lightroom first and then export to Flickr, which is bad because the APIs in Lightroom are good for Flickr. Apple Photos, you can do it. They have DSLR file conversion in iPhoto. You can put them on your iPhone, iPad through a little device, an SD stick device reader. It's great, but let me rephrase that. It is capable. It's so cumbersome that I never do it. Right? So you can do it. You certainly can get them on there, but it's too much time to do it and requires too much gear. Obviously, Lightroom 6 DSLR support is the best in the group. So that's a comparison. You know, if I was to summarize, I'm still using Lightroom 6 locally for my photos. Most of my photos lately have been mobile, unfortunately. I am using the social sharing features of Apple Photos. It's pretty handy. And then right now I am using Flickr and hoping it gets better. If they keep the innovation going in the next 6 to 12 months, I will be probably very much recommending Flickr. Right now it's kind of trending good. It's a wait and see. Google Photos, a lot of hype. I'm trying it out a little bit. Maybe it will get better. I wouldn't dump if you're in Flickr now, I wouldn't dump it and go to Google Photos yet. Let me know if you have any questions. And again, this video is entirely my opinion, my analysis. It's not a full analysis. I didn't do everything over in the social app columns, but hopefully you enjoyed that and found it informative.